On the morning of September 2, 1945, a long-standing warning came true. Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto had been dead for more than 2 years, shot down over the Solomon Islands by American fighters who intercepted his flight. But as Japanese officials stood on the battleship USS Missouri in Tokyo Bay and watched General Douglas MacArthur accept Japan's surrender, they saw exactly what Yamamoto had warned them about. They saw American power. More than 300 ships filled Tokyo Bay that morning. Aircraft carriers stretched as far as the eye could see. Battleships, cruisers, destroyers, and submarines surrounded the area like a steel wall. Above them, nearly 900 American aircraft flew in massive formations, filling the sky. It was a loud and unmistakable display of the industrial strength that had destroyed Imperial Japan. What Japan's leaders witnessed was more than defeat. It was proof that their own commanders had been right all along. As the surrender papers were signed, the generals and admirals who led Japan into war were forced to face a hard truth. America's power had never been a mystery. They had known about it and still chose to attack. This story begins with the man who understood America better than almost anyone in the Japanese Navy, Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto. Yamamoto spent several years in the United States. From 1919 to 1921, he studied at Harvard University in Massachusetts. He lived in the Boston area and closely observed American daily life. He walked quiet streets, watched ordinary people, and tried to understand the nation from the inside. When Yamamoto arrived at Harvard, he was 35 years old and already a veteran of war. He had lost 2 fingers during the Battle of Tsushima in 1905. He carried physical scars, but nothing prepared him for what he would see in America. He learned to play poker and bridge, games that became lifelong interests. Through these games, he studied American thinking. He noticed Americans took risks, calculated odds, and played to win. They hated losing and carefully studied their opponents. This was not a weak or lazy society. Yamamoto also studied economics, especially the oil industry. He understood that modern war depended on fuel. Ships, planes, and tanks all needed oil. Without it, a navy was useless. America's oil supply amazed him. It was far greater than anything Japan possessed. What shocked Yamamoto most was not America's weapons, but its abundance. Japan struggled with shortages, but America had more than enough of almost everything. 3 things stood out to him. First, women attended universities alongside men, showing a society able to use its full population. Second, basic goods like sugar were plentiful, with no rationing. What Japan considered luxuries, Americans treated as normal. Third, America's factories, steel mills, and oil fields showed a level of production far beyond anything in Asia. Yamamoto traveled widely across the country. In Detroit, he visited automobile factories and watched companies like Ford and General Motors produce vehicles on massive assembly lines, proof of America's incredible industrial strength. The speed of American production seemed impossible to Yamamoto. A single Ford factory could build more cars in 1 month than all of Japan produced in an entire year. The efficiency of American industry was far beyond anything he had seen in Asia or Europe. In Texas, Yamamoto visited vast oil fields. American wells pumped more oil in 1 month than Japan had in its entire fuel reserve. Oil derricks covered the land in every direction. Huge storage tanks held millions of barrels, and refineries worked night and day. Japan, by comparison, had almost no oil of its own. Every drop of fuel for Japanese ships and aircraft had to be shipped from faraway colonies across long and dangerous sea routes. Yamamoto also toured the steel mills of Pennsylvania. There, massive furnaces produced more steel in a year than all of Japan's industry combined. Rivers of molten metal flowed day and night. Pittsburgh alone made more steel than the entire Japanese empire. Steel was the backbone of modern war. Without it, there could be no ships, tanks, guns, or aircraft. What Yamamoto saw completely changed his view of what a war with the United States would mean. After returning to Japan, Yamamoto quickly rose through the ranks of the Imperial Navy. At a time when most admirals still believed battleships ruled the seas, he strongly supported naval aviation. He played a key role in building Japan's aircraft carrier force into the most powerful striking arm in the Pacific. From 1926 to 1928, Yamamoto served as naval attaché in Washington. This second stay deepened his understanding of America. He visited military bases, watched naval exercises, and carefully followed American newspapers and magazines. He played poker with American officers and businessmen, studying their competitive mindset. He became fluent in English and gained a deep respect for American culture, along with a growing fear of its strength. Throughout his career, Yamamoto repeatedly warned Japan's leaders not to underestimate American industrial power. In 1940, as pressure for war grew in Tokyo, Yamamoto was asked what would happen if Japan fought the United States. His answer became famous. He said that if ordered to fight, he could promise victories for the first 6 months to a year. Japan would strike hard and win early battles. But if the war continued beyond that, he saw no chance of success. Yamamoto understood what others refused to accept. He had seen the factories. He had seen the oil fields. He knew Japan did not have the resources to fight a long war against America. As he bluntly told his colleagues, anyone who had seen the auto plants in Detroit and the oil fields in Texas knew Japan could not compete with the United States in a naval race. Yamamoto was not trying to weaken morale. He was trying to prevent disaster. He also understood the psychological side of war. When asked what it would take to defeat the United States, Yamamoto gave a chilling answer. He said that taking Guam, the Philippines, or even Hawaii would not be enough. Japan would have to march into Washington and sign a peace treaty in the White House. This was not a boast, it was a warning. Yamamoto was explaining that only total conquest of America could bring victory, and that such a goal was impossible. Japan could never cross the Pacific, defeat American resistance on its own soil, and dictate terms in its capital. Later, Japanese and American propagandists twisted his words to suit their own narratives, but Yamamoto's true message was clear from the beginning. He was not calling for war. He was desperately arguing against it. Despite his warnings, Yamamoto remained a loyal officer. When Japan chose war against his advice, he used his sharp mind to give his country the best possible chance. He planned the attack on Pearl Harbor to destroy the American Pacific Fleet and buy Japan time. If Japan could not win a long war, it might survive a short one. On December 7, 1941, Japanese aircraft launched from 6 aircraft carriers and attacked the U.S. naval base in Pearl Harbor in Hawaii. The attack achieved complete surprise. 2 waves of more than 350 aircraft struck the harbor, beginning at 7:55 a.m. American sailors were eating breakfast. Most soldiers were still asleep. The quiet Sunday morning was suddenly torn apart by diving planes and exploding bombs. 18 American ships were sunk or damaged, including 8 battleships. The USS Arizona exploded when a bomb hit its ammunition magazine, killing more than 1,100 sailors in seconds. The USS Oklahoma capsized after multiple torpedo hits, trapping hundreds of men inside. The USS West Virginia sank to the bottom of the harbor while burning. On the airfields, 188 American aircraft were destroyed. Many planes were parked close together to prevent sabotage, making them easy targets. More than 2,400 Americans were killed, and over 1,100 were wounded. Japanese pilots returned to their carriers believing they had won a great victory. Admiral Chuichi Nagamo, commander of the attack force, was congratulated by his officers. Commander Mitsuo Fuchida, who led the first wave and sent the famous Tora 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 signal, confirming surprise, circled above the harbor and watched the destruction. Nagamo then chose to withdraw. His objectives were met. His aircraft had taken losses, and American defenses were now alert. He believed returning home was the safest